wasn't one for asking questions, but the angels would often say to me, be quiet, be still. They would always constantly remind me to keep it a secret as I was growing, not to say anything. And I did, and people find that amazing that I didn't share it during that time. But when you're being reminded constantly, and you see these angels as physically as you see your mom and dad, of course you would keep it a secret, because they're so much a part of my life. They're my best friends, my companions, and they have taught me everything. And I'm, what's that word? I'm trying to always pronounce it, dyslexic. I hope I got it that time.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of Deliberate Creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Let's go. Oh, hello. Karen here from ATP Media, Accentuating the Positive. I'm so delighted to bring you another incredible woman to speak with us today. Her name is Lorna Byrne, and she is the author of, is it 5 books or 6 books, Lorna?
I'll have to count. Definitely 5, I would say. I don't think it's 6 yet. But 5, yeah.
And she started writing them about 7 years ago. About 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think the first book was published actually 8 years ago, 2008.
About 8 years ago, and that was Angels in My Hair, which was an autobiographical story of your life. Yes, and
yeah, that's right, of my life. Sorry, don't know what that was that time. Just popped up.
And Lorna is an extraordinary person. I've spoken to only 1 or 2 people like you, and that you have the ability to actually see with your physical eye spirit and angels. And you've had this ability, you've said many times on interviews, since you opened your eyes, you could see angels, everyone's guardian angel, and also spirit around people. I find that's just an extraordinary gift, because as a medium myself, I can see, but I only see here. I don't see here. And it's extraordinary to be able to do that. Welcome to the show, Lorna.
Thank you, and I'm so delighted you have me on your show and having this opportunity to talk with you, and for all of the people in Australia that will be listening as well. So thank you very much for myself and the angels.
Lorna and I were just discussing that she's never been down under, and we were saying we'll have to get her down under. And to talk about the angels. I know you'll be really, really well received. Look, wherever the angels go, it's always well received. So let me tell you a bit about how I came across you. My esteemed colleague and good friend, Clara Apollo from Chi Time, interviewed you about 8 months ago for Soul Traveller Radio.
That's right. I remember Claire. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's over there in Bournemouth and also in Austria on the other side of the world. And so that was the first time I'd heard about you, Lorna, when I listened to Clara's show. And I listened to the show and thought it was fascinating and beautiful and didn't think more about it. And then when I was on YouTube, looking at YouTube's, there was a YouTube of you that was in my side all the time. There you were. There was your face. And I saw it and I thought, yeah, that's the lady Clara interviewed. That was a lovely interview. But there you were. You kept coming back up like this. And I said, oh, okay. And I pressed it and started listening. And then I became obsessed with listening to your interviews. And I really sort of thought, oh, I have to know more about this amazing woman. And that's when I sent out a request to interview you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be talking with you.
And let me tell you what's been really interesting. Just before I came on, I had been really, really thirsty and drinking lots of water. I know it's a hot day in Sydney, Australia today, but it's almost like the angels were getting me to cleanse somewhat before I talked to you. It was really weird. I wasn't hungry and I just wanted to drink. Does that often happen when people talk to you, Lorna?
Not that I know of now. I don't know. No one has ever said that before,
Really?
so I have to smile. Yeah. No,
After
no.
about my 6th glass of water, I thought to myself, now this is strange.
That's enough.
I don't normally do this. So anyway, but it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I read your book before I went away, and I went traveling to Indonesia with Habitat for Humanity to build homes for a village, a small village. And I was obsessed with the angels at that point. Even though I've got my mob, my guides that I talk to, I just kept talking to the angels after reading your book. And so I took an army of angels with me away. And you know what was extraordinary? So I'm fat and 50 and terribly unfit. And we were working.
Terrible to say.
we were working in the sweltering heat of Indonesia, absolutely 99% humidity. And it was pouring rain most days because it was the wet season. So it was really treacherous conditions. There was about 150 of us working there, and not one person was injured.
Complained. Or was injured. That was brilliant when you think of the way the angels can protect you. But sometimes, you know the way someone might say, my mom or my grandmother, is with me all of the time and guides me through life. But in some countries and some traditions, we actually call the angels guides, and once they're not a soul. So I loved the way you said it there that time, but I'm being told that there has always been plenty of angels around you as well.
I think, well, interestingly enough, when I was in my 30s, over 20 years ago, I was on an intense search for meaning, as many of the people who watch these YouTubes are, and wanting to know about our non-physical counterpart, who we are and what we're doing here. And I went to a Mind, Body, Spirit here in Sydney, and there was an English lady talking about angels called Diana Cooper. And I listened to her talk, and I had never contemplated at that point that angels were real. I had only ever thought that they were just some lovely sort of fantasy you see in books and magazines to make you feel good. I'd never really.
They're very real, and as I said, since I opened my eyes, I've been seeing them. Mm-hmm. I didn't know they were angels because I was only a baby, an infant at the time, a small young child. I see them physically, and I suppose that is the part that people find very hard to accept, because I see them actually with my eyes. As I see you on the screen there, but now I don't see your guardian angel. That's one thing the angels don't allow. It's very rare it would happen. Mm. But if you were here in the room beside me, or we were out on the street, and anywhere, everybody that I would see the guardian angel physically with them, as I would see the people themselves. Mm. And of course many other angels. And I know it's a hard thing for people to accept, is that I do see them physically in that way. But as I said, from the moment I opened my eyes lying in the cot, I used to be reaching up, trying to catch them just to play with them. But I was an infant. I didn't know they were angels. And as far as I was concerned, my mom and dad saw them as well. They were in the house all of the time. So it's normal and natural for me. And it was the time when I was sitting in front of the fire with my little brother Christopher. And, we were playing with blocks, and, our hands touched, and it was like as if his hand went into mine or mine went into his, and it literally just all sparkled and went everywhere. And I felt such love. And it was at that moment that the angel said to me that my little brother was a soul, and that they were angels, and I was to keep it a secret. And I didn't know my little brother had died before I was born. You have to remember, I was a tiny child. I wasn't more than 2.5. And, sometimes I would see him in my mom's arms as an infant when she'd be asleep in the chair. Mm. And again, a young child doesn't usually ask a whole load of questions. I wasn't one for asking questions, but the angels would often say to me, be quiet, be still, you know. So they would always constantly remind me to keep it a secret as I was growing, not to say anything. And I did, and people find that amazing that I didn't share it during that that time. But when you're being reminded constantly, and you see these angels as physically as you see your mom and dad, of course you would keep it a secret, because they're so much a part of my life. They're my best friends, my companions, and they have taught me everything. And I'm, what's that word? I'm trying to always pronounce it, dyslexic. I hope I got it that time.
Dyslexic.
So I couldn't, there was loads of things I couldn't grasp. And here in Ireland, back in that time, they said I was retarded. I know they don't use that word anymore, but that's what was said, because my left and right, to make out numbers as I got older was very hard. And the teachers didn't seem to be able to help me with my reading at all. It was just a panic kind of thing. But the angels have actually taught me everything I know.
I know.
Literally everything I know. So that's how I'm able to do all I do today.
That's beautiful. That's so amazing. I love your story because I feel very connected to it, because as a child I was dyslexic as well, and I had remedial reading, and I was hopeless at it, and I just hated reading. I could read. I was taught to read, but years later I was told from my guides that they dumbed down that intellectual aspect, or that hemisphere of my brain, so that I would develop that intuition that you had naturally. But for me, I had to develop it. And for many people, we have to develop it. You came in with this amazing connection, but for many of us, we have to develop it, and not to get caught up with the books and study, because to sort of listen more to the guidance.
Well, I suppose I always would say, and I believe I've said it in the book Angels in My Hair, that God and the angels didn't allow me to become contaminated, and they taught me that word, and I'm amazed I can say it, because being dyslexic as well, there's a lot of words you can't pronounce at all, or you say them wrong, and people just smile. People don't mind nowadays, even when I'm giving a talk and I don't say something correctly, and we'd have fun with it. But that is one word they taught me. They just didn't. I wasn't allowed to become contaminated by the world around me. So I do understand why not being able to read and not being influenced by the world in so many different ways has made a huge difference to me. I see the world through different eyes, I suppose, because I see the angels physically as I see every man, woman and child. And now I travel all around the world, and I give talks to people of all faiths and those of none. And everyone has a guardian angel, and it doesn't matter, whether you're a Catholic or a Protestant or a Muslim or a Jew or a Hindu. And I have learned there's millions of other faiths. I never realized that there was so many in the world. So it's just so amazing to see everyone, with a guardian angel. And I know if I ever saw somebody without a guardian angel, I don't know what I would think. I think I would be very shocked. To me, it would be, God, what's wrong in the world that someone hasn't a guardian angel? But every single person has a guardian angel, and it doesn't matter whether they're good or bad. And I get into trouble for that, because people will say, how could a bad person have a guardian angel? But they have.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone has, because you have a soul. That is that spark of light of God. And that's another reason why your guardian angel can't leave you, not even for 1 second, and loves you unconditionally. in every single way and just never gives up on you. And to your guardian angel, you are its number one. It only has eyes for you.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's, something that is, fantastic. It's unbelievable. Only eyes for you, yourself, your guardian angel has.
Yeah.
And it's the gatekeeper of your soul, and it does its best to guide you through life. But 9 times out of 10, or 99.9 times, we don't actually listen, because
I know. I want to just back up a little bit, just going back to when you saw your little brother. How old were you when he told you that?
I would say at that time, the first time playing in front of the fire with him, I say I was about 2.5 years
So
of age.
you were really young.
I was very young. I can only roughly guess my age at each age.
Exactly. And how old were you when they asked you to keep it a secret? I mean, you must have been old enough to understand what secret meant.
The thing is, from the very beginning, I seemed to understand everything Angel said, and if as I got older, if I had a question, and I asked them about it, sometimes they would answer it and sometimes they wouldn't. I understood, and I think we have this as adults, that small children don't understand things, but small children do.
Absolutely.
If I understood, I know another 2.5-year-old child would understand.
Wow. I love that you said that, because I actually remember being a little child and thinking that, and thinking, I do understand. Just because I'm a child doesn't mean I don't understand. So I love that you said that.
Because children soak up everything, and you have to remember, I always, as I said, from the moment I opened my eyes, the angels had been teaching me. They had become my best friend and my companions. And I love your cat, came in to say hello. Beautiful. And I always kept it a secret. And again, because they kept on reminding me as I grow, and even as an adult. But I think I got to the stage where I got to understand the world a bit more, and knew that they would ridicule me or laugh at me or jeer me, because I was already having that, because I was marked, as you would say, as a child that was retarded. So people would just ignore you. They would, say things, whisper things to each other. There'd be all that kind of thing. So I was very conscious that I must keep it a secret. And even the day when I was married and Archangel Michael came up behind me when I was wheeling the pram with my young daughter asleep in it. And I remember that day, because it was a little cold, and I was kind of a young mother trying to get home before your other young children came home from school, and you had so much to get ready, and and he was kind of annoying me, and then just stopping and turning around and looking at him, and he's saying to me, "Lorna, it's getting near time for you to write about God and us." And I just remember getting annoyed and just saying, how on earth does God expect me to write even one book when I can't even read or write? Like, that was literally crazy,
But I think I remember in your book, they told you that you would share your story later when you were young, didn't they?
They were telling me that from the time I was a child.
So how many years did you keep it a secret?
Oh, I kept it a secret. God, I've never actually counted.
But most of your life.
Most of my life, it was, after Joe had died and he had gone home to heaven. It was after that time that I actually said yes. I knew one day I would have to say yes, but I did understand as well. How would I say? I suppose I have never shared this before, but I did understand that one of the reasons why I was saying no all of the time, but yet I knew I couldn't be saying no to God, in that way. I knew I would have to say yes, but I wasn't being forced to say yes. It was like it was being left to me when I felt it was okay to do so. And it was only okay to do so after Joe died, because I knew deep down inside of me he wouldn't have been able to cope.
Right.
Because he was so ill, he had become so ill. You know, it wouldn't have been fair on him. And it was like when he had died, in one emotional way, I had come free to do so. And yet it was the most, what would you say, horror thing that I could think of that could have happened, you know, because I couldn't imagine life without him.
Yeah.
You know, because he had done so much.
I want to talk about how the angels told you about his life with you and his death. But I want to just fix your lighting because we're losing you. You're sort of fading.
Well, the sun now is shining in.
So I might have to stop the video and get you to put a light in front of you so we can see your beautiful face.
What God and the angels are up to. They often do lights flicker. Sometimes technical things won't work because it's like a sap of electricity goes through them. So let's see. It's great, it's working. As good as it is. That's the best.
The angels are playing with Lorna's lights and she looks very creative and artistic. Sometimes a completely black background and sometimes just like completely whited out with the sun. It's quite interesting.
Just change. The sun is just directly coming in the window.
So let's talk about when you were about 10 in the book, Angels in My Hair. Yeah, I just loved that book. It's a fabulous read. I know you've written quite a few other books, Stairways to Heaven, and what are the other one? A Message of Hope from the Angels, Love from Heaven. Let me see, what else? Wings Unfurled. And
that's a meditation.
That's a meditation.
CD.
And The Year with the Angels. You've got so much to share. I know the angels have shown you so many things and I want to get into that. But let's just share that story with your husband. When you were about 10, I think.
I was about 10 and I had been out with my dad and his friend Arthur Mason. And as you know, my dad is a fisherman. He loved to go fishing and he took me an awful lot with him. And this day I was with them and the angels had said to me, go on up the bank. And they had an angel to show me, someone very special. And I had to ask my dad for permission because if I was to go way up along the river bank, but I knew all of the rules about walking along a river and river banks. So I asked my dad and he said, yes, go ahead. And it was like when I had gone around the bend, more or less out of my dad's sight and Arthur's sight, I was looking around and I was saying to the angels, well, I don't see anyone here or any other angel. I didn't, you know. And then the next minute I see this magnificent, incredible angel walking across the water. He is so robust in that way. And he was dressed in the colours of amber, all the different shades. And he just was radiant. But the thing that fascinated me at the age of 10 was none of that, you know, but it was this magnificent angel walking across water. Like I was only 10, like you can imagine. I was more or less focused on his feet, you know, these enormous feet walking on the surface of the water. And, you know, when he came ashore and he told me his name was Elijah, and I'm only starting now to be able actually to say his name. I couldn't all my life. I couldn't even pronounce it. I thought it was a beautiful name. And he got me to sit down beside him on a tuft of grass. And the next thing he just told me to look across the river, you know, kind of down to the left. And he showed me this big screen. And I'm always trying to describe the screen because it wasn't like glass. It wasn't like crystal. it was like a mixture of everything, even silk. It looked so fine, and yet it was, you could see for miles through this screen. And he showed me this young man walking up a road with trees on the edges of the road, and I could see the young man kind of getting closer to the front of the screen. And as this was happening, Angel Elijah said to me, Lorna, this is the young man you're going to fall in love with. Now, I was only 10. Like, and way back in Ireland then, like, that kind of thing wasn't talked about, you know, that I was going to fall in love with and have children. And I remember giggling because, you know, fall in love with, you know, it just seemed so funny to me. But then he said, you know, we wouldn't grow old together. He would get sick. And that upset me. Because I didn't understand why this angel Elijah wanted to tell me this part of it. Why did I need to know? And he just put his hand to the back of my head and just said, we'll just put it to the back of your mind. And it upset me, even though it was at the back of my mind. And I know that's very hard to explain. But every day from that day, I was very conscious of this young man, you know, and Angel Elijah said we would fall in love, you know, we would have children, we'd have ups and downs. But the part was that we'd never grow old together, and that he would get sick and he would die. And it always kept coming to the front of my mind, but I suppose maybe in a gentle way, that all over the years of my whole life from being a child, it prepared me, I would say, in a sense, for meeting Joe. And it was when I was about 16, I was working in the petrol station, Grosvenor, in Rathmines. I was working for my dad, and in the same place as he worked. And I always remember that day, you know, looking out the shop window, and the secretary's desk was right in front of the window, and standing beside her and looking down the road, and suddenly kind of things changing, you know, for me personally, and seeing this young man in the distance that I shouldn't have been able to see by right, you know, as clear as I did, but I knew it was something God and the angels were doing, and recognizing him straight away, and even recognizing the few trees that were growing, you know, on different sides of the road, and seeing him, you know, getting closer, and knowing straight away that this young man was coming to look for a job in the garage, and saying to the secretary that was there, saying to her, well, I hope he's not coming in here to get a job, you know, because I suppose I was fighting it because I knew that he would get sick, and I didn't want to face that part. I knew I would fall in love with him, and we'd have children, but I think it was the part of knowing that we wouldn't grow old together, and, you know, watching him walking across the forecourt, and of course right in the door, and my dad was there making himself a cup of tea, and having a biscuit, and then this young man taps on the door, because everything was glass, you know, so you could see, and, you know, he talking to my dad, and then the two of them walking off, and knowing, because the angels were saying to me, that's Joe, and I knew that was Joe. Like, I knew his name before my dad even knew his name.
Wow. I know it's amazing to be shown that, and amazing to know this in advance. I mean, so many of us go to psychics to know our future, and yet you've been shown very specific parts about your future. And not only have you been shown about your future, but you've been shown many futures of Earth as well, which I want to talk about.
But I suppose you have to remember, you know, you talk about being shown your future, but you always can say no. Like lots of times you're shown many different paths, and you're shown many, you know, some people would call them my destiny, and that's a word I hate, you know, because, you know, you're shown so many different things, but you have so many choices, you don't have to take them all. I could have said no, you have to remember that.
Yeah, because we have free will.
You have free will, and lots of us say no, and lots of us say, you know, well, why did God allow that to happen, and the angels? But you were the one who said yes.
Yeah,
You know,
there's always an agreement.
Why did it not work out?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you should always try and remember, well, okay, I said yes to that. I've learned about it, and I'm discovering now, halfway through it or a quarter way through it, it's not really what I want. It's okay then to stop and go take another path. But lots of us are afraid to do that, especially adults, because we're afraid of what we think that, oh, we're letting ourselves down, or what will others think of us, that I didn't make it or I didn't do it. You know, but we should learn life is an experience.
Yeah.
And it's okay, you know. Listen, I want to be a roller skater. I would love to try it, you know, and go and do the lesson. It doesn't mean you're going to become the great roller skater that's the greatest champion of the world, and that you're going to be brilliant at it. But go and do it. You could love singing, and you want to sing. It doesn't mean you're going to become one of those brilliant singers in the world that make a fortune and are known well. But go and sing in your local church, you know, if you have a pub, you know, for your family. Enjoy that gift you've been given. Don't be all of the time thinking, this gift I've been given is going to make me famous. And I think that's what's happening in the world today with young people and even older. They're expecting that they're going to be made famous with every gift they have, and then they are so disappointed.
I know. Look, this fame thing is a bit of a disease, I think, on our planet. You know, to think that we need to be famous. Yeah. Again, I want to back up just a little bit. When you were shown the screen, you know, it reminds me, I've interviewed a lot of people who've had near-death experiences, and they talk about their life review, and they look at a screen, and even we can do that in our mind's eye, look at a screen and be shown things. It sounds like what you were looking at, that sort of three-dimensional, the way you described the screen was so beautiful. It sounds like that's the same thing that you look at when you've passed on and you're reviewing your life. You have this sort of movie come in front of you.
I've heard some people saying that, but all as I can say about the screen, why I say it as death, it's not like looking at this screen. You know the screen is kind of solid. It was alive.
Yeah.
It's like it had life itself, you know, completely different. And I know I would even sometimes, I don't know which way I put it in the book, but you could say like silk or satin, you know, but yet it had depth. It's not like a screen that we have, or like going to a cinema screen or 3D. It's so different. It's alive.
And
you know, you're going into life itself.
It's like you're living it. And have they shown you, they've shown you so many things, but have they shown you your specific relationship with them, like why you came in with that gift or ability, let's call it ability to see?
I have asked, you know, because again, lots of interviewers would ask, you know, that same question, and the only answer I have given is, anytime I have asked God or the angels, it's just, why not you? You know, I don't understand why me. I have learning difficulties. I'm dyslexic. I can read a bit now, you know, but I avoid it because I feel for me it's wasting time, energy. So I don't, you know, I'd rather someone else read something out or listen to something.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Why didn't God pick someone that, wasn't dyslexic, could have gone to, as I would say to the angels, someone that could have gone to a big university and have all the qualifications humanly needed, that people would listen, that people
But
would
Lorna, you've got exactly the qualifications you needed. Like we talked about, you used that word contaminate. The intellect is not a contamination, but it can distract you. It can be very distracting from listening to what you know.
Well, that's what I would say to the angels and to God, like, why didn't you pick someone else? And the only answer I get back is, why not you?
Yeah.
I'm so imperfect. I don't know why God picked me. Like, I don't know.
No, I do. Anyway, going back to your story, because it's all in your book, Angels in My Hair, and you've been shown a lot of things about the future. Do you want to talk about some of the different futures that you were shown, and how was it shown to you?
It's shown to me on many different occasions, right through my life, and still is today. And some of them I have written about. It is, I'm taken there. I'm taken to the future. Sometimes I'm taken back into the past. And I would be there physically. I would be standing there, or I would be walking or sitting. There would be something in that way. And I've seen so many beautiful futures, and I have seen the negative. But again, we have to remember the free choice we have. We have that free will. But I think the very important thing to remember, no matter how many wonderful, great futures have been shown, is that they all come together as one. I may be shown different parts of it, if you understand, in that way. And I say I was shown this future, but they all come together as one. And to me, that's very incredible. And one of them is in the future, a parent, a grandmother, you yourself, looking from your dining room door in at your child, and you see your child sitting on the floor playing, but you seeing as well, physically, as I do, your child's guardian angel.
Yeah.
And you speak to your child's guardian angel, not to your child. You say, your child's guardian angel, I'm going out for a few minutes, couple of minutes, I'll be back. Keep an eye on her, in that way. And it's like that spiritual step, that intertwining of the human body and the soul of us becoming one has happened. And, seeing again, being shown and being there in the future, where our planet, where somehow we got it together, we have that opportunity to do so. It can happen. We can change things. We're worth it. Where all pollution is gone from the earth.
Yeah.
Our planet is pure again.
Yeah.
And seeing children, and I'm always been shown children, but seeing children and adults, and seeing these two little children getting up and walking across the grass area, and there's this small river in front of them, but they're heading straight for it, and they don't need a bridge to cross it. They don't do exactly what Angel Elijah did, but they walk across the river without a bridge.
Right.
That's incredible, and that is where we have allowed the body and soul to intertwine.
It sounds like you're looking at
accept it.
You're looking. You're
side of ourselves.
Yeah, it sounds like you're looking at higher dimensions, like different dimensions, where the fabric of life is more non-physical and more malleable, and we can create with our thoughts a lot faster. That's happening in many different dimensions.
I don't know if the children were creating with their thoughts, an invisible bridge. I cannot say that. I don't believe that's what it was at all. But then to see the way, what way could I put it? The grass was, the flowers were, the trees were. In a sense, there was no pollution there, and the children were, the way we have young people now and even adults, and they're saying they're bored with this, they're bored with that.
Yes.
They're not interested in this or that. Everyone in the future were so interested in the tiniest thing, and they didn't need technology to look at something. It was so incredible.
Interesting. Yeah,
but we have so many wonderful futures, and the thing is, we have that choice. We can allow that to happen, and that again is where I always say people need to stand up and be counted, play your part, and to pray, allow that to happen, and to spread the word. And I think that's happening in today's world. There are so many people, standing up and being counted and saying no. And lots of people, regardless of their faith as well, and they're listening to their guardian angel. They are praying more, I do believe, because prayer is part of taking that spiritual step.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to tell you a little story. You talked about the mother looking at the child and seeing the guardian angel and saying, when I was about the same time, I was talking about in my 30s, and I had a young child. She was about 11 at the time, and I had come to know the reality of angels, and I started talking to them, and I had the angel cards, and my daughter would see all this, and I remember leaving her at home as I would go shopping by herself and feeling guilty, like a guilty mother. I shouldn't leave a child of 11 or 12 at home alone. And she said to me, "What are you worrying about, Mum?" And I said, I think you might be a bit young to leave. And she said, "But you believe in the angels, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Don't you believe that they're looking after me?" And I looked at her and I went, okay.
Okay. And that was brilliant, and that's another thing I do ask parents and everyone out there. Allow the children to know they have a guardian angel, because I'm meeting thousands of children, all of the time, all around the world, and they never knew they had a guardian angel, because it's something that had been wiped out, even though we would have little trinkets in shops. But everyone is that's all for the adults. Do the children know?
It's so interesting.
Forgotten to tell the children, because I get loads of letters and pictures from children now saying, they opened Angels in My Hair. Like even an 8-year-old, Mommy was reading this book and I read it. And secretly they have sent me a letter, or gone on, the prayer scroll when Mommy wasn't around, or Daddy, and telling me that they have now discovered they have a guardian angel, and what a huge difference it's making in their life. They're asking their guardian angel to help them make friends with bullying, with their homework, even with their mom and dad, with their sports, with everything. And they're talking about what a huge difference it has made for them. Or if you going across an airport and a teenager is with their parents and they kind of slow down because they see me, and they just stop for a moment and say, "I don't want to disturb you, but I want to thank you. You gave me something to believe in. You gave me hope." And they walk off. You don't even know their name or anything. Yeah. And I will just see their guardian angel moving along with them, and the guardian angel turning back in that way and just smiling at me. And I think that makes just a huge difference. So I'm all the time asking people out there, or even those who have the book Angels in My Hair and the other books, give them to their children to read. So their child knows they have a guardian angel. It's okay for mom and dad to say, you have a guardian angel, but the children want to discover like you discovered as well.
Yes, I know. Well, I think that, I'm such a big fan of the children coming in, especially the younger they are. They have these abilities. I won't call them gifts, because I think that we all have the ability to have connection and communication with our guides and our angels. We just have to pay attention.
Yes.
But like my daughter as a child knew, and when I asked her who was with her, she had very clear vision. Oh, I've got a girl and a boy, curly hair, and she described. But now she's an adult and she's forgotten. And as an adult, she's going through her trials and tribulations, and she's forgotten. And, you know, crazy mum's been talking this stuff for years, and she's sort of a bit sick of it. But, you know, she needs to be reminded. But she knew as a child.
Yeah, of course she did. But for some reason, lots of children are not knowing it. It has changed in that way. And I would say just leave the book with her, Angels in My Hair, on her cabinet, and just leave it there. And one evening and then she will discover again for herself. And that's important, you know. It's okay for a parent to tell them, but they need to discover as well for themselves. It's like we took a few steps backwards over the last few generations, but now we need to really go forward that little bit more. It's like, you know, hearing from a 14-year-old who told me the story about his sister, and she was 15 or 16, and, you know, their mom again had the book, and somehow they had both read it. And he told the most saddest story ever, you know, about how much he loved his sister, but his sister was always sneaking out, you know, to her friends for sleepovers. But this time she did that, and he never saw her again, you know. But the most important thing for him was knowing that even though she fell asleep, and so did all her friends, because they all died, to him the most important thing of knowing was that his sister's guardian angel just lifted her soul from her body and took her home to heaven. And that she never knew what happened. And that was a great comfort to that 14-year-old, you know. And so he would say, I miss my sister terrible, but I know I have a guardian angel as well. And I talk to her too, like, that's why it's so important. It's because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. You know, in that way. So it was so important. I'm so glad for that 14-year-old and for his sister who went home to heaven.
Yes.
That, you know, that they both knew about their guardian angel, and they both found out through actually reading the book how they picked it up. He never said, you know, and I think, you know, that has given him great strength to grow now into a young man, because that happened a number of years ago. So he probably could be 17 or 18 now.
Yeah. I know, because I want to talk about the angels, because we really have to ask in order to receive, don't we, in many ways. And, you know, when I was watching you before I went away, I had forgotten to ask, even though I have clear, open communication with my guides and they give me a lot of visions and information. I've forgotten about asking for help. And, you know, just with trivial things, or not even trivial things, you can say, you know, please make the car start again, or the fridge work again, or protect me, or do it. And they can do it. And I've seen that happen over and over again in my life.
Yes, they can help things in that way. But if your fridge is definitely on its last leg, at one stage it won't start again.
Well, my fridge was on its last leg, and I rang a guy to come and fix it. He fixed it, and then it died again. And I rang him again to come and fix it, and he said, "Oh, love," he said, "time to get a new fridge," and it's still going really well.
Well, thanks be to God, it's still going. That can happen. Fridges. I know I had a fridge myself for an awful long time. Well beyond its lifespan. But it is to ask for help, because you're empowering your guardian angel. You're giving your guardian angel more permission, because your guardian angel can't overstep your free will at all.
Right. That's right.
And
I've heard you say that, we're surrounded by angels, unemployed angels. I think you've talked about
angels
that are waiting for people.
Yeah, they're there in an abundance, and they're waiting to be employed.
Yeah.
And I always say to everybody, listen, just call out and say, I could do with some unemployed angels in my life, and I can assure you, you will have plenty.
Mm-hmm.
And they help you with what I call the everyday trivial things. And that's important, because even this talk, we may call that a trivial thing. You could be just looking after your children and you call that a trivial thing, or going down to the shops. But your arms could be broken carrying the bags out to the car or whatever. And I would watch angels, those unemployed angels, making those bags just that little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Or stepping in front of you umpteen times and watching people stop just before they bump into something.
Yeah.
So they're constantly helping you all of the time. We all need unemployed angels in our lives with literally everything. So go on and employ them. They're being poured from the bucketfuls from the heavens down onto the earth, and there's hundreds and thousands of them, and they're not employed.
That's right. So if you're watching this, please employ some unemployed angels. Ask and be in a vibration of allowing yourself to receive, because I know a lot of people ask and then they continue to worry, and their stress doesn't allow them to receive what they're asking for, and many times. So it's just knowing that that help is there and you can rely on it, and feeling that, like the mother, like that story, like talking to the God, as if you could see, like you, Lorna, as if you could see an angel and you really knew it was there. You wouldn't think, this is not real. You wouldn't worry. You wouldn't worry that you weren't going to get what you want. You would just relax.
Right. I was doing an interview with a radio presenter there the other day, and we were on stage, and that is one thing he had said as well, how hard it is for everyone else to believe because they can't see physically, and how, so many people are skeptic. But I was saying to him, those that are skeptic and they're asking 1,000,001 different questions, they're hungry and thirsty to know, what Lorna is saying is true, because they want to know that. They want to know that they have a guardian angel and that they have a soul as well, and there's more to life, to the meaning of life, in that way. And that's one thing to remember. You have that soul, that speck of light of God that fills literally every part of you, and it's so tiny, but yet it fills every part of you. And your human body dies, but you don't die. And that's what I say to everybody. Remember, you will meet your loved ones again.
Yeah.
And it's your loved ones that you feel the presence of at different times more than you would even your guardian angel, because they lived. You knew their senses, you knew the presence of them. So you would often feel their presence more than you would ever your guardian angel. But it's your guardian angel that allows them in and around you. But they're in heaven. They're only there literally with you. We'll use the human terms, a couple of seconds, but you think it's the whole day, in that way, because they're in heaven as well. And the soul of a loved one can do more for you because they can intercede for you on a very personal basis, because you were their daughter or their best friend, or you could have been the grandmother to an enormous family, or just one person. So the soul of a loved one intercedes for you as well. So always remember, you will meet your loved one again, no matter whether it's a child or your mom or a sister or a brother.
Always. I just saw on Facebook before this interview a beautiful musician, and his gorgeous mother just passed away just before. We're recording this just before Christmas, and And yeah, just to remind, love never dies. We never die. But I want to ask you about, I read in your book about the Queen of the Angels and your vision as a little girl. But I just want to get a little bit specific about who the angels are, what they are as a point of energy, as an aspect of the divine. Because you said something really interesting, either in your book or in another interview, that they don't have souls.
No, I used to feel really embarrassed, not for me, but for the angels. And I, especially when I wrote the first book and I was being interviewed and I was saying, oh God, what am I going to say? And God said, and even Archangel Michael, all the angels said, Lorna, you must tell them. And angels are creatures created by God. You and I are 1 billion times upon 1 billion times more than any angel ever could be. Angels don't have souls. And, that spark of light that you have, and that's what makes us human beings more than any angel. And that is incredible. And I used to feel so embarrassed because angels are incredible as well. Mm-hmm. God didn't make them, but I was told to say angels are creatures created by God, and they were created long, long ago. But that you and I are billions of times more than any angel ever could be.
So when I heard you say that, I was trying to work that out in my head, and this is what I came up with. It's like to understand that there is a creature without a soul sort of sounds odd, but
it sounds odd to us.
It sounds odd to us, but I know that, source energy or God is pure positive energy and infinite possibility and, everything, the omega, the whatever, it's everything. And so when we reemerge back to that heaven, as it's called in religious scripture, or back to source, we go back to that pure positive energy. And that's what an angel is, with the ability to help and manifest and mold energy. So like miracles, but a soul or a person or a human is a soul that's evolving and having different experiences like a human experience, and then evolving that soul, whereas an angel doesn't need to evolve because they're already, because I don't know, they're not human. So.
Yeah, God has created them. They're that creature because they were the word. I can't change the words. I was given to use, but you and I are more than any angel ever could be because of your soul.
Because of the soul.
Learn anything.
So they're specifically created as to help us, to help the soul evolve.
Yeah.
Help the soul.
No, the soul doesn't need to evolve.
Well,
the soul, you have to remember, it's the human being that needs to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
It's the human being that needs to allow itself to say, yes, it's okay to intertwine with the soul, because the soul is that speck of light of God. It's part of God. The soul is perfect. It is pure love. It's beyond that. And that's another reason why the angels love to be around us, because we are that spark of God. And that's another reason why your guardian angel is the gatekeeper of your soul, why it never leaves you for 1 second at all, no matter what you're doing in your life, whether you're good or bad. And that's another reason why it doesn't give up on you as a human being, because of your soul. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I know you will read it I give parts in each book, because I know it's too much for people to take in. It depends on where they are spiritually. Mm-hmm. It gives us the opportunity to learn as much as we can humanly, and to search and discover more about our soul, and to accept and please God in the future, which I have been shown, and I believe it's even happening today. We're starting to allow, we are hungry and thirsty to allow our soul to intertwine with our human body. And when that happens, you don't grow old, you don't get sick, we're completely different. And I suppose that is the goal of us humanly, that we have deep inside of us, to that stage. And I know that's hard for people to take on, because we all the time believe, well, we have to learn, our soul has to learn, but it's not, our soul doesn't need to learn anything. Remember, it's that speck of light of God. It is pure. It doesn't need, it's us humanly that need to learn. And learning hurts us. It gives us joy, and our soul is pure love. And sometimes we turn away that hurt and pain, all that emotion. We say, why should we have it? But we need it. I better say no more. I'd go on.
No, you don't need. Look, I've got my mob talk to me about this sort of thing all the time, and I do use different words because I think words are a really poor way of explaining what we're talking about.
They are. They only help. But it's the understanding that each and every one of us have.
Yeah.
As we go through life, our understanding changes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what we believed we have been through, or what we believed we understood 10 years ago, now we have a greater understanding and realize, sometimes, well, it didn't actually mean all of that. Now I know a little bit more. And it's okay then to let go what you realize it didn't mean, and take on what now you understand what it means more.
Yeah.
Until you get to the next stage.
Yeah, I understand that the contrast we experience here, or the dramas, or the trials and tribulations that we experience here, to just use those different words, is a way that we experience, and then we evolve or expand our awareness through that experience of what's possible and who we really are. And it is an amazing and tumultuous ride, this physical life, but
it's lovely.
I wanted to talk to you too I still want to ask you about the Queen of the Angels, so I'll get back to that. But, one of the questions I had when I was reading your book, I've got the door open so the bugs are coming in, is that, you struggled so much when you were younger, and with your husband, with poverty, with being quite poor, and him being out of work at some point. And the question that arose was, if you're so connected to the angels, why did you still experience that, being so poor?
Because I'm human. I have to live a human life. I have to live life the same as everybody else out there. I wouldn't be all of who I am today if I didn't live my human life as well. And again, to me, I wouldn't have liked to live any other life.
Yeah.
No matter how many.
But I guess people would say, why didn't you ask the angels to help you out financially, or?
Even today I wouldn't ask that question. I don't.
I think a lot of people ask that question.
It's strange. There's questions lots of people ask, but it never crosses my mind to ask. Like at times I would have asked them, where's the food going to come from?
Yeah.
Where's Santa Claus going to come from? Mm-hmm. Where are we going to get, the money to pay for the next ESB bill? Electricity, how is that going to come about? I might have, it mainly would have been food and clothes and warmth and, and again, it depends on how other people listen as well. Like, they're one of the Christmases, a stranger dropping an envelope in our letterbox, with some money in it, and we were able to buy food for Christmas on Christmas morning.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, so again, the angels are always prompting people. It could be, just something very small that you give. You could have little yourself, but you still help out somewhere else. But lots of times adults will say, no, that's crazy, that's silly, I won't do that. Somebody would think I'm mad. So a lot of the time we don't do it.
Yeah.
And I always say, but you should, if your guardian angel is making you aware of maybe somebody in your job, or aware of a neighbor, or even in another neighborhood, why not, sneak up on Christmas Eve and stick something in the letterbox or hang something on the door knocker, to let somebody know that, we do care.
Yeah.
And and lots of time adults just think that's silly, that's crazy. Why should I give? Or we say, right, I don't know whether it's dollars you have, but here in Ireland we have, euros. I have 10 euros, and I say to myself, I need definitely that whole 10 euros for myself. But if you think about it, you don't need the whole 10 euros for yourself. Can you even spare a euro? Because when you give it, you will never miss it. Especially when you give it, as the angels would say to me, give it with a pure heart and expect nothing in return.
Well, the answer to that question when I asked it as I was reading the book for me was, experiencing generosity and love is so much more important than experiencing wealth. Another one was the richness of life when you struggle, and like the story of the stranger dropping the money in the letterbox, and then that elation that you thought, we're not going to have anything for Christmas, and then that elation when there was something there, without that poverty experience, you would experience that elation. Also, another thing was, it made you you related to the human experience because you went through the gamut of it. You went through poverty and illness and death. You experienced so much of the human experience. And so now that you're out there speaking to people, you have that personal, relatable experience in order to understand what people are going through with their trials and tribulations. So, yeah.
Well, I say everyone, we all suffer. We all have happiness and joy, but we all have tears and sorrow as well. But I wouldn't like life without those things. Some people would say, why doesn't God and the angels do away with all our trials and tribulations in that way? Wouldn't life be much better if God, set the path for us and we could never leave it and it was perfect? Would we not be bored? Would we not be bored that even a stone moves away from our foot, that we don't kind of, get a sore toe, hit a stone and feel, I think we would be doing the opposite then. We'd be looking, why don't I have more emotion? We'd be looking, why doesn't God allow me to feel pain? We'd be where I think He has given us such balance, for us to grow humanly so that we will accept our soul that He has given us. And I don't know why God fell in love with us, to give Him that spark, to give each and every one of us that spark of light of Himself. That is incredible. And to give us, each and every one of us, a guardian angel that is the gatekeeper of our soul. And the guardian angel's most important job of all is to bring your soul back home to heaven.
So another question that I can hear people asking is, do animals have guardian angels?
No, they don't have individual guardian angels, but the angels do look after the animals as well. And we ourselves are meant to be the guardian angels of nature as well. I would often see, a guardian angel whispering in someone's ear, or sometimes even another unemployed angel, about an animal that is in need, that needs help. About even, I remember one day being out and seeing these people, it was two men and a woman, and they standing by a river and just watching the angels pointing into the river all of the time and whispering in their ears. And I asked, what's going on? And I was told that the angels were trying to bring to their attention that the river needed some taking care of, some cleaning.
Right.
And it did work eventually, seemingly, after an awful lot of work that the angels did to get their attention. But when our attention is drawn to something, most of the time we're very good at responding, especially if we're in a group. On our own, not so much. But in a group, yes.
So I wrote this question down a couple of months ago when I read the book, and I can't remember why I wrote it down, but I said, I'd like to talk about the Queen of the Angels and your vision as a little girl. And I forgot what I was thinking at the time I wrote that down, but the Queen of the Angels seemed to really speak to me. I don't know.
Well, the Queen of the Angels is Our Lady, is Mary, and she has shown herself many times to me on different occasions. And I don't know which one you're talking about yourself, whether it was when I was on the swing. I don't even know if this one is in the book. And the angels got me to look up into the sky and seeing her there, you know, and she looking, just her face. And on this occasion, she was holding an infant, a little child in close to her. And I wasn't allowed to see the full of her. And another time on the swing as well, I just saw her face, you know, and then everything changing and like raindrops and feathers and, you know, just all falling down. You know, it's like as if she exploded, but not in a human way. It was something as a child I was being shown that looked so beautiful. And I know an adult could take that up wrong, you know, and then another time, I think I wrote about it in the book, and that was appearing in the room in the house in Maynooth, you know, the Queen of Angels, and she telling me who she was exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the way she was dressed, you could never imagine anyone dressed like that. It was like her hair was long, but it was like as if every strand had incorporated in it what we would call jewels, because they all sparkled, of emeralds, diamonds. And she was so beautiful and dressed in what I called a fiery, the colors are so different than our human colors. So I'd be searching for colors that would represent, but her clothing was like those fiery flame colors, you know, that red and that yellow and gold of a flame, and even that blue. And that's what her clothing was. And she telling me she was the Queen of Angels, you know, the mother of all souls, you know, the mother of Jesus. And that was just so beautiful. And I always remember, you know, being in the kitchen, washing the dishes and drawing that dishcloth across my arm, and the angel saying, go out into the hall, and seeing the other angel there, and then opening the door and taking those views, because you knew she wasn't an angel, you know, it was just her presence, that power. But the angels obey her, and that's giving us human understanding, you know, saying I'm Queen of Angels, Queen of all souls, Queen of man, like, you know, just very, very beautiful.
And what is her role in your life, or in our life, or in everyone's life?
I think it is the symbol of a mother, of a mother that, you know, cares for her children and cares for us all and loves us all, and is there for us to go to with her sorrows, with her tears, and she's there to wipe them away, you know. I suppose for so many reasons, but I think it is the symbol of a mother, and the symbol of a mother is all of those things, is love and compassion, and knowing whether you're a man, woman, or child, you can go to your mother. You don't have to be afraid.
Yes, be as little children and know that you are loved. Yeah. And know that you're loved and looked after. Because that's the thing, as children, we do know that we're loved and looked after. And for the most part, most children, not all children, are. Maybe in the Western world they are, but there are plenty of children that are not anyway. But they know that they are, and then we forget. And we grow up, like I've seen, you know, with my daughter. She knew she was, and then at some point she forgot. And we all go through that forgetting. I don't know. I don't think... I don't know, you've never forgotten, Lorna. You've never forgotten the love, because you see it around you all the time.
No, love, we have to, I think, again, one thing that people have forgotten is that, you know, there's lots of good in the world. There's millions of good people in the world. And even those that are what we consider bad or mean or selfish, they have good in them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to love the stranger. We have to learn to love the person. And I hate using this word because people use it. That sometimes somebody will say, I hate them. You know, I don't love them. We often say bad, you know, horrific bad things about someone else because they have hurt us or because they have done something horrific. But we have to have love and compassion. It's like, I forgive you, I love you, but I know I can't forget either. And that's okay not to forget, because we can't forget our history. We can't forget the wrongs that we all have done. You know? But we have to forgive and love to move on and make sure we don't repeat them again. That's the hardest part, I suppose, for the world. I suppose that's why I ask people to pray, and the angels are always asking for us to pray for the leaders of the world, our governments, that they make the right decisions, they find the right solutions, and that they realize that they're not immortal. Yeah. A lot of them think they are immortal and they will live forever. In a human form. Yeah. You know, the human body will live, and we need them to listen and have compassion and love so that they will make this world like a glimpse of heaven, which I've written about as well.
I know, look, I know you've been talking for so long. I've got so many more questions I could ask you, but I know you have to go. But I'd like to finish with, you know, what the angels' message is for humanity at this time, because I know that you're here and many others are here to really help us evolve. And as you say, judging our politicians or hating our politicians because we don't agree with them is not helping them or helping us, you know, move into a new era, into the future. So even if you don't agree with someone, loving them for that spark that is the divine within them, that is that spark of God, the soul within them, and asking them to remember that, to remember their own connection, their own divinity, their own love, and seeing them make better choices, better for humanity. But what would the angels, what would be the most pressing message that they would leave, that they're telling you, Lorna?
Well, I suppose it's actually more than one, and it is so many all put together. You know, it is to love, it is to pray, it is to help everyone in the world to become conscious that you're not just flesh and blood, you are a spiritual being as well, and to allow those two to intertwine, and for everyone to become conscious and aware of that they have a guardian angel and that God is real. That is one thing I would be asked by rabbis, priests, imams, you name them, the heads of the church, of the religions would say to me, Lorna, is God real? Like, they study, you know, they should know. And I would say yes. And even today, when I would be talking to people, again, that would be the question. And yes, God is real, and your guardian angel is real, and you are real yourself. You are a human being, but you're a spiritual being. You have that beautiful soul that is pure love, and you are loved. And I can't give up on mankind, and neither can your guardian angel give up on you. we can change this world. We can make it that glimpse of heaven. We are worth it. We are more than what you can even imagine. So get out there and let your children know they have a guardian angel. Give them the book. I'm amazed now that children of 7 and 8 years of age are reading Angels in My Air. Some countries I go to, it is all young people that come.
Really?
You know, and the young need to be awoken, but those that are older need to wake up a little bit more too. We are worth it, and we are precious, and we are loved, and I love you all. Okay, and I will say thank you. And
Lorna
thank you
Byrne.
yourself and all your listeners. So thank you very much. Okay.
Lorna Byrne, thank you so much for spreading the light and your love and your message. And thank you for being on the show. Blessings to you.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, Blissful Beings, go to KarenSwain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on KarenSwain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
If you feel like that's what you